Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 8K Association's 8K Pavilion. Right now, we're about to start a very, very exciting panel on 8K content. I'm Juan Reyes, the Executive Director. I'm happy to be here and speaking with you all and our esteemed panelists here. I'll be introducing in just a little bit. But before we get started, I want to give everybody a little bit of an update on where we are today with the 8K ecosystem and kind of give you a an idea of everything that's going on. So we can get to our next slide, please. So as you can see here, the 8K Association covers every aspect, the 8K ecosystem, starting with content creation, where we've got several providers of 8K content, including a couple that we have here. On the capture side, we've got several cameras manufacturers that are using 8K and higher resolution cameras. One of them is here as well. On the editing side, all of the major editing applications are supporting 8K. In coding, of course, there's been some tremendous advancements in the capabilities of 8K encoding. We've got one of them demonstrated here as well. And then, of course, on the distribution side, there are several distribution capabilities that are coming out. YouTube, obviously, is a big one where they've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of 8K content. And then, of course, on the decoding side, on playback, Intel and several other companies that are supporting 8K playback capabilities using various codecs. On the integration side, obviously, you need your cables, you need your splitters, your matrix switchers, several manufacturers supporting 8K, including several of them here. And then on the AV receiver side, of course, AV receivers have been promoting or supporting 8K resolution for many years already. And then last but not least, on the display side, as you can see here, we've got several displays, several projectors that are supporting 8K. So as you can see from the end-to-end ecosystem, there's a lot out there that are currently supporting 8K and even more to come. And as you can see here today, we've got some of the main content manufacturers here, content providers, content creators, MGM, Warner Brothers Post-Production Creative Services Worldwide, IMAX, and Savage. And here, my esteemed panelists, I'd like to introduce each of them. First of all, we have Miles DelHoyo, the Executive Director of Technology, Strategy, and New Format Integration for Warner Brothers Discovery, and Greg Ciaccio, Vice President, Original Content Post and Image Capture from IMAX. I'd like to have each of you just give us a brief introduction of your roles and your involvement with 8K in your organizations. Miles.
Thank you, Juan. I'm happy to be here. This is exciting. They don't let me out very much, so it's great to get out of the office and have a little field trip, if you will. I work at Warner Brothers within their post-production creative services team, specifically in their emerging formats and mastering group. And my role currently is to help facilitate any kind of operational needs with respect to explaining and defining technical aspects of how the operations works within that group. As you can realize, our business is made up of lots of different distribution models and paths and require different formats, from 4K, HDR, SDR, different types of distribution displays and outlets that we have to match. So my role really comes in to help define those workflows to get the masters formatted for those distributions. And more recently, I've been focused on film restoration work in the last 5 years, where we've taken a lot of Warner Brothers catalog films out of the archive and scanning negatives and restoring those into a new digital medium for distribution.
Thank you, Miles. Greg, talk to us about your role at IMAX.
Hello. So, yes, I am working in a few different areas at IMAX. One of them is the film group. So anytime anyone uses our film cameras or they go out to our film format, my department covers that. I also cover the Film for IMAX program, and that basically is a select group of films every year that are curated by our executive team. We have 13 or 14 this year. We typically have 4 to 5. And those films are a little extra special because we work with the filmmakers from pre-production all the way through, testing cameras, testing lenses, aspect ratios, showing them demos on different ways you can achieve aspect ratio changes to tell a story. And as well as the alt content side. So alternative content would be Pink Floyd, Queen, David Gilmour, Prince. We just have that released now. And then upcoming, David Gilmour actually is upcoming in Depeche Mode. But these are our concert films and other areas that don't really fall into the mainstream Hollywood programming. I also support our IMAX Enhanced groups. So The 8K falls into that one day, and also our streaming and consumer technologies group. So the idea is you're taking a director and a filmmaker through the theatrical process and right into the home, so you can see the advantages of IMAX all the way to your home.
Excellent. So as you can see, we've got some great experts here working on some really cool areas within the industry specific to content. And since we're here to talk about 8K, I'd like to ask each of you within your respective organizations, talk to me a little bit about what you're doing around 8K specifically, starting with you, Miles.
Well, I'm going to scoot over here and get feedback. 8K in the studio side is a really focused effort right now on preservation. Not a lot on content finishing and distribution, and we can talk about that a little bit more as we get into it, but namely right now our focus is on taking our film catalog, scanning it at ultra high resolution, 8K or even higher, so that we can maintain the highest fidelity that image was captured on the analog film format in a digital medium, and then put that into our archives just to protect the film negatives so that we don't have to keep touching those, and then we can use those digital archives down the road for future distribution needs in whatever resolution. Currently, our focus has mainly been on taking those high resolution scans and creating 4K with high dynamic range masters out to market. But we can definitely take those and down the road include an 8K resolution output from them. And that's the exciting thing about the work we're focusing now on preservation, is getting as much content in 8K in the archive as possible.
Yeah, it's great to hear about that, the fact that you're keeping your content future ready, scanning it at the highest resolution possible in 8K, doing your mastering into 4K, but now you've got the 8K master that's ready to go in the future as costs and things go down around cleanup in different areas, which we can touch on a little bit more. But now, Greg, talk to us a little bit about what IMAX is doing in the space of 8K.
Yeah, so we started doing our 8K preservation and getting ready for it in 1972. So here's some frames of the film Sinners, which came out in theaters earlier this year. Tremendous success. We've re-released it already once or twice and might be coming up again. This is arguably, maybe, allegedly.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, yes, go watch the film. It's a great film.
Yeah,
Warner
you gotta go see the film. So it is a Warner Brothers film. Got to plug them. And this is Ryan Coogler. So Ryan really, really wanted to do this, and Christopher Nolan is a good friend of his, and so they talked about it, and obviously Oppenheimer was a huge success. Ryan really wanted to do film prints on this. He shot with our film camera, and that's the full ecosystem from beginning to end. So you have something that's arguably 18K, right? So we needed a scanner that could faithfully capture this, and we had a Northlight serial number 1 of 1, and I hate to have one of anything because it runs on some very old electronics. We've had that for 23 years. Time to upgrade because right around the corner it started failing. So we bought a laser graphics director, which you also have at Warner Brothers. I'd like to say it's the best out there. It's the only one out there at this point that really works. So yes, it's photochemical, so you can't really say how many Ks exactly, but let's say 18K. So we scan this basically in 3 5-perf segments. If you divide 15 perf, you get 3 5-perfs, and so that is what we keep on our scanning server basically, and those scans go out to visual effects vendors as requested, and also for the DI. So some films request 4K, mainly budgetary and time issues. Some request 8K, and so even for films that we work on like Oppenheimer and others, we're actually working in 8K because at some point, except for the contact print, which if you go see films like The Odyssey when it comes out, it's basically a direct contact print from the negative that was through Hoyta's lens onto the print. Anything that goes through a DI or a visual effects process has to get digitized, right? And so we want to do that in the highest resolution because ultimately it's going back out to film and has to match essentially the resolution or the feel you get from something that is originally 15 perf 65 millimeter. So we've been doing it for a long time. We have, I don't want to get ahead of your questions, but we do have libraries since we've been doing this since '72 that we can leverage and re-release in any resolution that's asked for.
That's great. And then talking about that and the work you're doing in regards to scanning and the technology you're using and having to upgrade it, Miles, you and I have had several conversations also in regards to scanning and looking at, what makes sense for 8K, what doesn't make sense. And I see, because he got to take his, negative out, it makes sense that you can demonstrate yours as well. And we can talk about that also, right?
Show and tell. Okay, here we go. I'll show mine and he showed his. So I also have here a sample of 65 millimeter, just to show the size. And then this is a standard 35 millimeter.
And those are from actual prints too, right?
Yeah, this is from The Shining, Kubrick's The Shining. And this was actually made up of different film prints from one of an older titles. I'm not even quite sure, but the interesting thing here to show is the size of the film. So you can see right off the bat with the smaller film, the 35 millimeter, you're not capturing as much light on the emulsion of the frame as you are on a large film format such as this. So the benefit of a large film format, you can capture so much more information, aka detail, through the lens onto the camera, onto the film print running through the camera. That allows for, when you go to digital workflows, to work in a higher resolution on a pixel basis. So as Greg was mentioning, that there's a digital equivalency of 15 perf 65 at about 18K resolution. I mean, it's going to be dependent upon the type of camera you use and how well that's captured, but roughly that. Whereas on 35 millimeter, you're looking at something closer to maybe 8K at best, depending on how the film is shot, the type of film stock, the lens used. There's all these types of things, and we go through a very thorough assessment on every film in our archive before we go to the scanning process to determine whether it's even worth scanning in ultra high resolution. We have VistaVision films, which is this, captured horizontally at 8 perforations. The perforations are the little sprocket holes here. Typically, you'll capture a film vertically through the camera at 4 perforations, but like at VistaVision, the films were captured in 8 perforation per frame, so a lot larger film size. And so something like that, automatically we're capturing ultra high resolution. In fact, this last year we captured and scanned 3 VistaVision films: The Searchers, John Ford's The Searchers. We also did North by Northwest, very famous film, forget the name, Hitchcock. And then we also did High Society. And those 3 films looked fantastic. We captured them actually at 13K because we had to scan them in 4 perforations each at around 6.5 to 7K each. And then we stitched them together to create a 13.5K image per frame. So that's a lot of pixels. And then we worked with that downstream to create what ended up being a 4K to market. But titles like that we have already in our archive. We could easily take those and, relatively easily take those and create an 8K variant or other resolution from that out to market. I was going to ask a question to Greg here if I could. So when you when you're scanning a 15 perf, you say you do it in 5 perf sections. For each of those 5 perf 65 mil sections, which is basically a standard 65 mil scan, is it at 13.5K or you? Okay.
Yes, there are 2 main modes, 6.5K and 13.5K. We use the 13.5K mode. So it's not quite, you can't figure it out mathematically. It's not 13.5K wide and then turn 90 degrees, 13.5K tall times 3, because there's some overlap in there. But trust us, it's very high resolution, and the 8K image that comes out of it is stunning.
Yeah, that's a lot of pixels, and with that, as you can imagine, it's a lot of data. And when you're having to work with a lot of data, that increases your time of processing, time of rendering, everything. All time goes up, and when time goes up, costs go up. So there you have it. That's kind of the biggest challenge right now for the ecosystem in 8K is the cost barrier. And one of my main jobs at Warner Brothers is to try to remove some of those cost barriers, make it more efficient, more affordable to create 8K or high-resolution content out to market. Whereas right now, a lot of the money is just spent on preservation and archive of our films because they're precious and we don't want to lose those elements in perpetuity. We keep them in a digital high-resolution format and keep the negatives in a safe, environmentally controlled environment so they're going to stay as long as they can. But outside of that, getting to a finishing work where you go to digital restoration, you're cleaning up, any kind of film-related artifacts you've captured in the scanning process, which, by the way, is a very delicate process in and of itself. When you're doing the scanner, we're capturing every frame, the red, green, and blue channels of that negative into a 16-bit image, uncompressed image. And for 8K, it takes about 3.5 times longer to scan each frame in just a 35 millimeter frame than it does in 4K. So time is important as well. But we go through the process of a full assessment of the films. We're checking to see whether or not the film was shot properly, the film stock it was used, if there are any dupes that were cut into the negative. A dupe is something where you have an optical or some sort of effect that was used that required a post-process from the camera negative, where you had to add that back into the final cut negative. And so if you have a lot of these duplicates shots that are put in, then that's a degradation already in the negative itself, which means that we may not scan that in 8K because you're not going to get the benefit of 8K. You've already lost some of the quality in the initial details. So there's a whole gambit, and I won't go through the details and bore you, but there's quite a bit of effort that goes into our process of assessment and evaluation of our films before we scan them. We're even taking them into the color bay, and the colorist is zooming in. We're magnifying that scanned image to see, when we do a test in 4K and 8K, to see if you can tell the difference. We're looking at clothing. We're looking at, like Greg's shirt here, we're trying to see whether or not we can see the detail in the pattern on his shirt on a film scan negative. And so there's that type of level of effort that goes in before we even say, yep, pull the trigger, let's do an 8K scan of that 35 millimeter negative. Anything larger than 35 millimeter is an automatic 8K or higher resolution scan. But for 35 millimeter, like I said, it's like at best, with optimal situation of camera capture, you could make use of an 8K scan, but otherwise it's going to be a bit hit or miss.
Yeah. That's a lot of Ks, and of course at the 8K Association, the more Ks, the more resolution, the better. We love it. We love to hear that. And then you started to touch a little bit, Greg, about a certain number of titles that you have had scanned at higher resolutions for use in the future for release, and you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically our documentaries. Many of you probably have been to the California Science Center or other science centers. Well, I'm from California. I forget, we're in Denver. But your local city science center. And you can see these films now. A lot of them are digital, but back then they were all film. And so we have all of these cut negatives and IPs. And so we generally will scan from an IP. You might think, well, why not from the cut neg? The IP has the film color baked in. The quality is much higher than you could normally get out there, and we want to preserve the cut neg to the extent we can. But we still show these films every once in a while. We have about between 30 and 40 film projectors worldwide that can show 15 per 70 millimeter. But yes, we have a number of documentaries that go back to dating to the early 70s that can be seen in high res. We haven't scanned them all to 8K because, like you said, there hasn't been a financial request for that yet. I mean, someone has to be able to pay for it, and right now people are just buying what they can. But the good news is the crown jewels are intact and they're well taken care of and preserved. So we're ready. Ironically, television and even headsets will likely go 8K before cinema does. I mean, there is no DCI 8K standard for cinema. And so, I know every single day when I sit in our Theater 4, the David Keeley Theater back at IMAX headquarters, I see that chart go by and it's got line pairs all the way down to 40 line pairs. And if we ever look at that on our digital 4K, it goes down so far. And then we put the print up and it goes way down. And that's a film print, not the negative. So there's already some registration issues, right, from the print. But you're reminded every time that leader comes up how resolute that image is.
Yeah, and then Miles, we've also had some conversations as well about, number of titles that Warner's has already gone ahead and scanned into 8K so that they're there. Obviously, many of them are mastered into 4K, but curious to hear any details you have about number of titles that you've scanned in 8K. Obviously, the audience would be very excited to hear about that.
Yes. So, like I said, the scanning process for preservation has been picking up in the last 2 or 3 years, and I would say just in that time frame, we've scanned about 35 or so titles in 8K or higher. We've done 3 VistaVision films at 13K. We've done, we're working on a Technorama film, which is like VistaVision as far as the film frame, also in about that resolution. I think of those 35 plus titles, so between 35 and 40, let's say 37, We have 7 of them were 65 millimeter. So those were automatic 8K, but that shows you that quite a bit of them were 35 millimeter that we went ahead and did 8K scans or higher in. And that's exciting. You know, a lot of those were shot using spherical lenses, which gives a higher fidelity and image capture on the emulsion of the film when you're using the camera lens for capture versus anamorphic. But still, even some anamorphic 35 millimeter captures that are scope aspect ratio, we've done quite a few of those in 8K. To name one recently that we finished in 4K out to market in digital cinema was Ben-Hur, the classic Ben-Hur, Charlton Heston. That looks phenomenal in 8K. We have those scans done just recently, and we did them in a 16-bit color raster. So it looks fantastic, and I'm excited to see that one come out later on 4K to the market. Like I said, we've released a version of it to digital cinema, and it looks fantastic. So that's one example. Other titles, I don't know if I can name a few of the others, but
we won't tell. We won't tell.
Well, it's some more contemporary titles like the Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson, Danny Glover. Was a Richard Donner film. We did that one in 8K, and I think that one just released also to market via 4K. But the 8K resolution downscaled to 4K is so much better to start from to get a finished 4K resolution than starting with the 4K capture. It just is, and that's the process we do at the beginning when we do the assessment. We're looking to see how far can we push the scanning technology to where now we're just enhancing grain or the film texture versus enhancing the image quality. And when we get to that breaking point, then we know that's how far we want to go with pushing the scanning technology. So when we're doing an 8K scan, we're seeing definite detail difference between a 4K version of the same frame and an 8K version, and Lethal Weapon was an example of that, a more recent film. Another film we did was Dirty Harry from the 1970s, Clint Eastwood, of course. That was scanned in 8K, finished in 4K. But we have these scans, and they're available and ready to add the color that we've already done in an 8K raster and put those out to market. It's just getting there with respect to the hurdles on the digital restoration finishing part.
Yeah. And we did see a lot in the news about the Dirty Harry taking the library, doing the 8K scan for giving you some amazing 4K images, 4K quality, 4K for the home. We saw that about in Prince with the, Purple Rain. They did
Yes,
some work.
Purple Rain, yep. That was done last year, and that was an interesting one because it wasn't really shot. Most of it wasn't shot, how to say this, I mean, just wasn't shot very well. It was a budget production at the time in the 80s, and I talked to the filmmaker, the director himself, Mr. Magnoli, and he said, yeah, we didn't have a lot of money to work with, so some of the shots aren't really well captured. But when we went into that particular production to see how it would fare in 8K, some of those low light sequences where the band is playing with the neon lights, and this is the 80s, we captured so much more detail and fidelity in 8K 16-bit than we were able to in 4K. And so it shows in our 4K finish, which went out to market last year, and it's phenomenal. I think it's also gone to big screen cinema presentations as well, and it's been really well enjoyed. So we're seeing the payoffs in starting with an 8K source in downstream distribution, even when it is 4K. So we're excited to see what we could do when we distribute it finally in 8K on a large screen.
Yeah, and then also, Greg, for you, we've got actually one of the clips, Chapter 51, that you guys did some work on that you scanned, and we have here on demonstration. If you could talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's a filmmaker named Tyler Shields. He's a print guy. He does a lot of large format prints, and when he found out about the IMAX format, of course, he was interested in using it. So the Chapter 51 actually has every film format pretty much ever devised, including 8-per, VistaVision, both scope and anamorphic. Once 2001 and some of the other ones wrap up, you'll see it. It'll loop over. We've got Chapter 51 there. He really wanted to take advantage of the IMAX format because he's a large format shooter. He understands the emotional impact. You'll see some of the shots too. They look like a model shoot, but it's beautiful. And he really wanted to tell a story and use different cameras in different use cases. In addition to Chapter 51, we also have 3 documentaries up there, clips of some of our older documentaries, but it's amazing how well they hold up. So Fires of Kuwait, Destiny in Space, and Journey to the South Pacific We have clips as well. You can see those. And it's amazing. We actually had someone in recently doing some 8K work, and I showed him that on our Baselite. Not even, I don't think it wasn't an 8K because we had the Sony mastering monitor on there. And he said, "How did you get this to look so good?" I said, "Well, because we shot it 40 years ago, 50 years." He goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah, this was shot on IMAX film, and it really, preserves all that detail." We released Prince Sign of the Times, although we didn't get film for it. But I understand what you're saying as far as the production quality and what they had. But it definitely looks a lot better today than it did yesterday. They were looking at it in different exhibition. Everyone knew that film had grain and weave and all kinds of issues, and we were very forgiving of that. But now when you're scanning it in a very high resolution, you start seeing those things. And I didn't want to forget this, not to jump the gun on your schedule, but AI. Got it. You had to hear those two letters at some point, right? So when you talk about zooming in, was that lens they used? Did it resolve 8K? Maybe not. What were the other limitations in the entire chain? So can we use AI and AI tools to take what was captured back then with some of the misgivings and shortcomings it has, and can we enhance that so that it looks like it was captured on 15 perf IMAX today? Not so it looks like somebody else or something else, but can it really look realistic?
No, that's a very, very good point. And to what Greg said, you can't have a panel without talking about AI. And one of the things trying to see about any work that AI can do to help with the cleanup, as you talked a bit about that, Miles, regards to the cost involved with cleaning up content and looking at AI for that to be able to help support that effort at a reduced cost.
Yeah, it's true. We don't dabble too much in generative AI with respect to content creation, but we are using AI to help improve processes and assess content quality and tell us what we should be doing with the restoration work. Look, I'll just say it's exciting, if I haven't been able to convey that already, to take old films and breathe new life into them in a digital medium. You're seeing things that you just never saw before. We took the Purple Rain film from 1985, and when you watch it, we saw the print play back. It's a little underwhelming as far as the quality, but now you watch it in its current rendition, restored in glorious HDR, when 4K or high resolution, and it's phenomenal. You're seeing details that you never saw before. It's watching it again, but for the first time. It's a new experience. I mean, that's really what the art of filmmaking is about when it talks to merging art and science or art and technology. Is we're trying to get an immersive experience out to the viewer that they just forget they're watching something. We want to get away from the idea, hey, I'm watching television, to the idea of I'm having an experience. I'm living this experience. And that's the concept behind 8K, is the next attribute in that ladder, if you will, of technology enhancements to allow the consumer to sit in front of a large screen, so you remove the barrier of the frame and that distraction of, oh, this isn't real, to now I'm in it. I'm in the experience, and I don't see this uniform grid of pixels. It's like I'm looking through a clear glass window and don't even know the window's there. Yeah. So that's what the art is about, and that's what the craft is about. When we have actors who are upping their game to make it feel more real, more lifelike, the music, the composition, the directorship, the film photography, everything, all the way down to mastering, it's about how can we bring this experience to the end consumer to make it more lifelike, more real than ever before. And 8K helps us get there, even than it has ever before.
Yeah, and one of the things to point out is the fact that we've got over here 2001, which you guys had restored, rescanned into 8K, mastered it. Everybody who's been coming by has been saying, wow, this looks so amazing. If you could talk to us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so really quick, 2001 A Space Odyssey. This was a project that I worked personally on in 2018. We had done the work earlier that year in 4K and released it to market. Looks phenomenal, by the way, if you get a chance to watch it 4K with high dynamic range. But we had an opportunity working with NHK in Japan to create the first 8K finished master that went out in their market in December of 2018. It was the first out, I think, in the world 8K Hollywood film movie in the format in the Japan market, NHK 8K channel. They launched that year in anticipation of the work they were going to do towards the Olympics in 2020, which got pandemicked, but we won't go there. But the work on this was so phenomenal to see all the detail that we captured in the negative to finally see finished. When I say finished, it goes all the way through the restoration process, where all the cleanup, all the dirt, the stains, any kind of emulsion digs to make it look pristine, but still retain that filmic experience with the film texture and the grain structure that you see in a fine grain that 65 millimeter has on capture. And we're able to pull that out in beautiful high dynamic range, in ultra high resolution on big screens. And I think back then we had, there was a prototype sharp 85-inch 8K display they were using. And now we have 8K displays that go up to like 98 inches. So to see this content in large screen in higher fidelity that could never be seen before is just incredible to see it. Even on this screen here, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting to see this, the large screen, the immersion. And at one point, Greg and I, you and I had a conversation. You were talking about more than just the resolution. It's the feeling, the emotion that you get with watching something that's so high resolution on such a big display. You want to touch on that a little?
Yeah. So years ago, when we were going from 2K to 4K, there was a theater in Hollywood called the Pacific Theater. It's long been gone. It was actually supposed to be the home of the jazz singer going back a few years. And it wasn't ready in time. So it was used as a research theater for the ETC group, which was working with DCI on establishing standards for format. Bill remembers that well. And and one of the things we were doing is looking at pixels, right? We had like tape drawn on the floor. Remember, we were, oh, look, can we see the pixels? And I think we're way beyond that. It's not about, if you can see the pixels, you're not close. So something happens when you start getting more dense. It's everything. It's dynamic range. It's the color extension. If you look at Kier's helmet in the previous scene, it's crimson red. That color red did not exist until P3 in Rec 2020. So we're getting more accurate. We're getting more contrast, more clarity. When that happens and the screen takes up more of your peripheral vision, you feel like you're there. It's got to be everything, right? You got to start out with the source. In this case, he started out with a pretty damn good source. And so now let's take advantage of that, right? In all the ways we can.
Yeah, it's funny in some ways, in many ways, films that were shot 40, 50 years ago that are restored in digital look better than some of the films that were shot just 5 years ago. And that's because what's happening nowadays in film production is it's not captured on film. You're capturing on a CCD, on a computer chip that's reading the light and transferring into a digital bit. And when it's digitized, it's making a decision on what information is keeping, and you're losing some of that information that would otherwise be seen by the human eye. Whereas film is capturing through the lens more like the human eye captures light or sees light. And if you have a good film stock and hopefully a large film frame, there's so much detailed information, like we were able to pull out of 2001 from the 60s on a 65 millimeter film in 8K HDR, that if it was shot today, I doubt you'd be able to see that much dynamic range and that much fidelity in the image quality based on the decisions that are being made in post-production. Mind you, a lot of post-production work is finished in 2K when it gets to VFX and CGI work. So we're already at a point limiting ourselves by today's contemporary standard workflow, which is more budget decisive than it is anything else. But we go to the archive, we pull the film out of the archive, and it's exciting again to see all the information that was there, and no one's been able to appreciate it until now.
That's right. Real quick, turn over there and look at that. That's Destiny in space. If you stand up near there, you can see detail that you'd never see before on a lower format. It's really quite amazing. You're even seeing the shift there, right? The right to left shift, but the detail in that space station in the shuttle is really quite amazing.
So it's great that we're able to talk all about the restoration process, the rescanning process, the mastering process, and as part of that, we're in the creativity side. We're also getting into the delivery on the ecosystem side, and that's where talking about the IMF format, the interoperable master format that SMPTE's working on, which is used to deliver content and distribute it. And then I know, Miles, you've been working on that quite a bit, especially in the area of expanding that to support 8K. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So in a nutshell, I don't represent the Warner business, so I can't speak to their intent and desire for future need or business arrangements around distributing 8K. But my job is really to make sure that we're ready operationally to serve that need when it comes. So things like IMF, which is the interoperable master format, to date we've been using it quite extensively for distributing a component-based package to our clients or partners to get it out to market. And if you don't know what IMF is about, in a short summary, it allows for you to make a deliverable, high quality deliverable, in a format that allows you to add to it, component wise. So the advantage of that is if you have a title that is very heavy in data size, it's a large file, takes up a lot of space, which 8K would. You don't want to have to deliver that over and over again in a way that you're trying to maintain quality, because it's going to take just forever, and it's going to eat up your time, and your process is going to go down, and money's going to go up. So looking at the IMF construct in a way to deliver 8K is important to us, because we could deliver the feature in a compressed format, but in a way that is still maintaining high fidelity, such as a lossless format, in a way that we can get it to the end user or to the client, and then we can deliver localized assets or supplemental packages after the fact and not have to worry about re-delivering that entire feature all over again. So that's one of the reasons why IMF is important to us. And just this last week was working with the IMF user group to help facilitate and ratify what otherwise would be an 8K profile amendment to the IMF construct, so that we can start creating IMF packages using 8K video essences. So that's in line with getting there, so that we're prepared for, hey, we want to turn this switch on. We want to start distributing content 8K. Now we have a way to do it, rather than, okay, let's start figuring that out. We're trying to be ahead of the game.
So again, we've talked a lot about being future ready. Here you can hear, from what you're talking or you're telling us, is that even on things that are going on the back end, on the production side, on the distribution side, they are working to make sure that they're ready for that 8K, so we can start to deliver more of these, more 8K content into the home, more immersive experiences. You know, there's a lot of new things going on in the entertainment space. We've got the Sphere, we've got Cosm, giving consumers, you know, greater immersive experiences outside of the home. How do you think that that's helping to drive higher resolution immersive experiences within the home? Miles, you want to comment on that one?
Well, I mean, it's awareness. You know, bringing these new technological advancements to the eyes of the viewer to say, hey, this is an experience that I didn't know was possible, or even what it would feel like, that now I can experience that. So you go to something like the Sphere venue and you sit there and you're like, this is mind blowing. You know, I'm literally immersed in this from every which corner I look. I see these images and I hear these sounds, and that's another part where we're looking at picture and sound wrapped together in an immersive experience. And there's been a lot of inroads there trying to get that experience out to the consumer in that fashion. But it just brings an awareness that, hey, this is something that is an enjoyable experience that consumers want, that they feel like it's important to them. I mean, we see it in every aspect of our entertainment industry, where trying to bring to the consumer this availability of content that is game changing, to the sense that it's an experience that you just don't forget, and that you want to tell your friends about, and you want to invite them in and say, hey, come watch this with me, experience this realistic, this life-changing thing. Whereas before, it's just like, hey, do you want to just flip through this comic book, or do you want to turn on the television and watch an episode or whatever? It's becoming an experience, and that's what this is really about. So the thing of the Sphere and other venues where it shows that you can immerse people in these experiences, becoming awareness, is becoming aware, and people are wanting to experience more of that. And so how can we provide that to them? And this is an opportunity to where technologically we can do that. As screens get bigger, you want to be able to bring the presentation to the home without distracting attributes such as pixelation or artifacts from a digital standpoint, or something that would take them away from the immersiveness. And that's where 8K really helps out in that front.
Greg, your comments.
I mean, absolutely. Just to piggyback on Miles' comments, is the sets are getting bigger and bigger. You know, every time you go into Costco or Best Buy, you go, wow, that 75-inch set that I forwarded, I could buy a 98 one. You know, and you're not pulling your couch back further, are you? The set's just getting bigger and bigger, right? The old adage we all grew up with, oh, you got to be 5 screen heights away. You know, it's gone. So you know, the bigger the display, of course, you need more Ks, and 8K material will look a lot better than 4K will on a 100-inch set. It'll be more immersive. And sound, we don't talk about sound so much because it's 8K, but sound's very important as well. And so having great immersive sound is fantastic. And aside from home viewing, what about HMD? So head-mounted displays, right? When they get to the point where they've got 8K per eye, that's another place you can take advantage of. And we've got material we've got 3D content, a lot of documentaries. Right now, if you have an Apple Vision Pro, you can download the IMAX app and you can feel like you're sitting at one of our IMAX theaters and you can watch one of our documentaries or some of the trailers that are out right now. We're welcoming 8K in that area as well.
That's great. And then just some last words, some questions for you guys. And wrapping this up, obviously there's a lot of excitement here from you guys on the business side, on the entertainment side. Curious to know from you individually, from the aspect of home entertainment, the immersive experience, the excitement there. Just talk to me a little bit how excited you are about 8K, the possibilities for really delivering a home experience, more immersive experience to the consumer.
Well, for my part, and it bears repeating, it's this idea of being able to experience something for the first time and really enjoying it, seeing things that you didn't see before. I'm seeing this in the lab. I'm seeing the scans. I'm seeing what we're able to pull out of the film negatives and what we're able to put up on screen. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share with many other people because they don't see that yet. At best, I'm showing it in 4K. So my excitement to see 8K becoming a reality someday is to be able to finally bring to market that experience, what I'm feeling, what I'm able to be a part of in the lab, to bring it out to market. And we just have so many great titles. I mean, not just at Warner Bros. There are so many great films and stories being told that could benefit from ultra-high resolution, an immersive experience in ultra-high resolution, to where you forget the technology and you just experience the story. You experience the emotion. You experience the retreat of life, which is why we watch entertainment. And that's what's exciting about the prospects of 8K here, is to bring that more realism into the home. Bigger screens, not necessarily bigger rooms, bigger screens, so you're still sitting pretty much the same distance, and now you're able to see without being distracted by, this looks pixelated.
Exactly. And it, IMAX, we're theatrical, but we also have enhanced, right? So we want people to have that same experience at home, or it can't be the same. It's like saying, oh, when you go to IMAX, you're at the Sphere. The Sphere is a unicorn. It's amazing. If you haven't been, you got to go. But it's trying to get you as close to that quality that you're in the theater as you can get at home, and that means having higher quality audio codecs. I think the links between the post house and the viewer, that link has gotten higher quality all along, right? It used to be a big step down all the way down through to broadcasting your home. Now it's very high quality. Now basically it's like your bit rate, right? How many what's your connection to your home? I know Kaleidoscape has a server. They develop high bit rate, basically masters for your home. So it's trying to get that quality maintained from the source all the way to your home, and have that image be as big and clear and as dynamic as possible. Judder correction is something we're all working on now. Just to throw all the issues out there, we want to eliminate judder as much as we can without making it look like a soap opera. So that's something we're all kind of concerned about right now. HDR is fantastic, but with it comes a whole new set of problems.
Yeah, so a lot of excitement here. As you hear, on the content side, there's work being done to get us some more 8K content, which is very exciting for all of us, very excited for the 8K Association and for the industry. I'd like to thank you both for being here on this panel. Greg, Miles, appreciate it very much, and thank you everybody for attending. And please enjoy the rest of the show, and while you're here, take a look at the different demonstration areas that we have, the entire 8K ecosystem, and if you got some questions for them, please feel free to come up and talk to them, after since we're done here with our panel. So thank you very much, everybody.